Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Hi everybody, my name is Earl. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you, Bob.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. And let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
I'd like to thank the committee for asking me to come share here. It's always an honor and a privilege to do so. I would particularly like to thank Brad for being a terrific host. Terrific host. We had a great time, man. It's a pleasure to get to know you. Really a pleasure. Hope you come to LA sometime. You do, my turn. All right? And a lot of other people. I mean, I've been to, this is the fourth meeting I've been to. First of all, Cynthia, unbelievable. Powerful talk, right from the heart. Forget all that bar stuff, setting the bar stuff. That's just us teasing each other. You were fantastic. And then Lexi last night, the 10 o'clock meeting, you were terrific. Led that meeting. That was great. And then the 5 o'clock meeting, Susan. Oh, my God. Great talk. That was a great talk. And now I'll confuse all of us. But that's all right, because we got Eileen tomorrow morning. She can fix anything. She's unbelievable. So I didn't start drinking until I was 12 years old. I waited as long as I possibly could. I had been restless, irritable, and discontented for quite some time. I was not a happy kid. I was just I didn't have the words. Didn't know how to express my feelings. I was a little kid walking around. But today, those feelings, if I were walking around like that, the inside of my head would just be saying, something's wrong, something's really wrong, something's wrong. I don't know what's wrong, but something's wrong. It's not good, it's all going to be bad any second. That was just kind of that impending doom was there, you know what I mean? I was always this uncomfortable kid. And I got shipped off to boarding school when I was 12 years old, and my father decided it was time for me to become a man. I was 5 feet tall, 103 pounds, 12 years old. Manhood was right around the corner. I was ready to break out into manhood at any moment. And how I found out I was going to boarding school is he just said, get in the car. I said, oh, all right. They got in the car and we drove, and there were like a lot of relatives in the car right behind us. And I just think, I wonder where we're going, And we got to this place, and I got out of the car, he got out of the car, nobody else got out of the cars. And he put a suitcase down next to me, shook my hand, said, let's make a man out of you. Got back in the car, and they all drove off. And I was just like, and it turns out I was the youngest and the smallest kid in a school of 250 boys. They had scoured the earth to find 250 of the brightest, most disturbed young boys they could find, and threw us on this camp. It was like Lord of the Flies in this place. It was not good. And oh, man, I was scared. I had no tools for living. I had no idea how to be in the world. I didn't know what to do at all, and I'm just walking around trying not to make eye contact with anybody. And every high school's got a guy named Tiny, right? He's like 6'4", 240, plays guard on the football team. He found me, and he just said, how you doing, punk? And he slapped me in the back of the head and sent me and my books flying, right? And I had this like out-of-body experience where you're watching yourself do something, and you're thinking, this is probably not a good idea. And I just walked up and I hit Tiny as hard as I could, which had no effect on Tiny at all. And I just stood there because I didn't know, well, now what do we do? Because I was on new turf already. And he looked at me and said, you got a lot of guts, kid. And he beat the crap out of me on the spot. And as I'm taking this beating, I'm thinking, this is going pretty good. Yeah? Because I was terrified of him. And he had just said, you got a lot of guts. My violence had masked my fear. So my first tool for living was, when frightened, attack. If you're coming at them, they're not going to be saying, boy, is this guy scared. I was always, I'm not a tough guy or a bad guy. I never have been, I never will be. But I've been extremely violent in my life as a direct result of self-centered fear. So anyway, I go back to my room, wait for the bleeding to stop, and the word spread across this campus like wildfire. Watch out for this little Hightower kid. He's a maniac. He attacked Tiny, right? Which had absolutely nothing to do with the truth, but all of a sudden I got this reputation that has nothing to do with who I am. I'm a frightened child, right? So the cool guys started to come around. I'm sitting on my bed just thinking, my life sucks, man. And this guy stuck his head in the dorm. His name was Matt. And Matt said, you want to smoke a joint? And I said, yes, I do. And I didn't even know what he was talking about, I didn't know. He could have said, listen, we're going to go kill the Spanish teacher. Do you want to come? I would have said, yeah, I'm with you. Just because, I was alone in the universe as far as I could tell. I'd been thrown away by the people who knew me best in the world, and I didn't know why. And this guy says, you want to go smoke a joint? Of course the answer is yes. Doesn't matter what it is. Can't feel any worse than this feels. So we pick up Steve, and Steve has a Tupperware container full of cheap red wine. You mentioned the Mad Dog, the fortified stuff. The 2020, right? The no grapes involved wine. That's the, you know what I mean? And that's what we had in the Tupperware container, man. Two 13-year-olds and a 12-year-old standing behind the dormitory, right? By this tree. And Matt fires up the joint, and I take a hit, and burns my lungs, and that's awful. Then the wine came around. I took a pull on the wine down on my stomach, and it burned my stomach, and you get that vapor feeling that I was not familiar with yet. I thought, well, that's awful. And I'm standing there thinking, I don't get it. Why should this be any different than the rest of my life? I just don't get it. And then it happened. That thing that makes me bodily and mentally different from my fellows occurred. And suddenly I was comfortable standing where I was standing, doing what I was doing with the people I was doing it with. And I never felt like that before in my life. And I don't know, is it the pot? Is it the wine? It's the fact I'm standing here with my two very close personal friends, Matt and Steve. Because I'm feeling that connection, man. It's like, it's us, right? It's us. We're together now forever. This is what we do. I never felt a connection like that in my life. It's like, my whole outlook on life changed. I was like, Tiny, bring them on. I'll give it another shot, I just wasn't afraid anymore. It was the fear killer for me, is what it was. It killed the fear. I got this emotional barrel of feelings, and way down at the bottom of my emotional barrel, the deep undercurrent is self-centered fear. That's the thing that has run my life. I can drink through. This is why I drink to get drunk. I don't drink to be socially lubricated. I have no interest in a couple of cocktails. You have a couple of cocktails while you're waiting for them to bring you a couple of cocktails, right? But I can drink through the emotions that are going on. I can drink through that stuff, bam. But way down at the bottom of that emotional barrel, I got to get to that, because the last thing I feel is fear. So for me to accomplish my goal, I have to get drunk. It's the only thing that will kill that fear. So that's what I did the first day, and that's what I tried to do the last day and was unsuccessful at. Right? So it was humble beginnings, a little pot and a little wine. 13 pills. The only reason I took a pill was the guy said, would you like a couple of pills? And I said, yes, I would. Again, having no idea what we're talking about. I want you to understand that I didn't have a big plan here. You know what I mean? This just kind of evolved on its own. I'm a child of the 60s. I talk about drugs. I apologize. I'm an alcoholic. The only reason I mentioned drugs is because we were in the 60s. Our parents were the alcoholics. We were carving out our own identity. They were drinking themselves to death. We were going to kill ourselves in a whole new way. But that's the 60s. The fact is this. The drugs would come and go. Didn't really matter. My drug of choice is, what do you got? It's all anti-Earl medication, the only thing that was on the bottle every single day, the only thing was alcohol. Booze was on the table, because booze is the reliable stuff. Drugs are completely unreliable. There's no quality control going on out there. You don't know what you got till you get it in your body. You get yourself a fifth of Jack Daniels, a good quart of gin. You know what you got here. You're going to be all right. No matter what else happens, Jack is here. We're fine. And that was kind of my attitude, you know. Do so much cocaine, you can't get your mouth open anymore, you know. And it's 7 o'clock and the party just started and you've completely overshot the mark. One more time. Don't worry about it. Suck a little gin through your teeth. You'll be all right. Go right on with the party. That's the big dog, man. Alcohol has, I mean, you can look at, you guys look at it any way you want. Alcohol's always been the big dog in my life. That was the thing that made me know I was going to be all right. And in the end, for me, there was no more time to play around with any of this other stuff. It was about alcohol, because that was the thing that would, the only thing that could even for a moment make the demons leave my brain. So a couple of pills, 20 minutes later, I'm laying on the floor. I'm happy about the pills. I'm laying on the floor, I'm very happy. 14 psychedelics. I did about 650 acid trips, got classified legally insane by the military. That's a whole other story we don't need to get into here. 15, I started shooting dope, and the only reason I did that was because I was on a boat in Marina Del Rey, California, and this girl came and said, would you like me to stick this in your body, Earl? And I said, well, yeah, yes, I would. And she did, and it was one of those shots where you just kind of go, yeah, Lexi, yes. And I only remember thinking was, if I'm not dead, I'm doing this again, because that was outstanding. That was great. I have no problems. 16, the nut house, 2 trips to the nut house, tried to escape from the nut house, failed. That's a demoralizing moment when you're shuffling around the nut house, getting your 3 cups of pills a day, and if you act it out, you got a shot. So my particular treatment plan was, what are we going to do today to get the shot, right? Right? Not particularly interested in getting healthy. And I'm like 16 years old, and I remember I was going to escape. I decided I got to get out of here. I got to escape. We're just shuffling around in this joint. And I didn't know exactly what was in the cups, right? But so I decided one day I'm going to make my break, and there was a girl that lived in this nut house. I think she just lived there always. And her name was Kilday, and Kilday was crazy. I mean, Kilday, all you had to do to get Kilday going was look at her and say, Kilday, how you doing? And Kilday just, oh, wow! And she just, all the whistles would go and all the guards would come. And so I used Kilday as my diversion when I was going to make my escape. We would look longingly at the exit signs, just like, there it is. That's what I want to do. Exit. It says it perfectly. And you would say, sorry, at lunch I sat in my chair and I'm getting ready to make a break, right? And I got Kilday, flipped that going that way. And it's like, all right, ready, go! And I'm hauling ass. That's all I got. That's those little cups of pills. And over the loudspeaker, if you're here on the, from the, Ed, when you got a minute, you want to grab Earl, he's making a break for the door. Ed's in there having a sandwich going, yeah, I'll get him in a minute. It's demoralizing, because you're really... And so next time in the nut house, I learned if you're going to escape, you got to get out before they put the Thorazine in you. Because they get that Thorazine in you, man, you're leaving when they say. It's done. You got 2 speeds, slow and stopped. That's it. So I did that, and I spent 3 years out on the street doing what we do to stay, drunk and loaded on a daily basis. More and more demoralizing. World getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Ended up in business college in Northern California. Long story that makes no sense. And I'm completely estranged from my family still. I'm 19 years old. I'm a drug dealer, and I have no problem being a drug dealer because I have no sense of family. I have no sense of community. I have no morals. I have no ethics. I don't know anything about any of that. What I am is a self-centered alcoholic, and that's fueling my entire life. And anything that feeds killing that fear is just in my life. I mean, when I was 16 and a half years old, a guy called me an alcoholic, and my reaction was basically, what's your point? If that's what this is called, then fine, I'm an alcoholic. But if you think naming me that is going to change what I do, you're out of your mind. This is what I do. We wouldn't even be having a conversation here if I hadn't had a few belts, So where was I? Selling drugs in college, right. So I'm studying marketing, production, distribution. It's going really well. I love college. And I get 20 years old, I get diagnosed with malignant cancer. Ugh. Fly back to L.A. They tell me I got malignant cancer. They prepare me to die. They tell my family it's very likely that I will die. And I remember looking at them thinking, you have no idea who you're talking to, you know? The dying thing is like not big news for a guy like me. I've been starting to overdose regularly. That's, you know, that comes up like twice a week for me. And they said, you know, you need to get your affairs in order. And I just started laughing. It's like, I'm a 19-year-old drug addict. I don't have any affairs, you know? It's like a couple of calls and we're good to go. You know, there's just, I don't have it. I wish I had to say, well, we got to call the accountant and we got to do the... And they did major surgery on my upper back and put me in a nuclear medicine program, so they called chemo back then. And I'm a long-term cancer survivor. And I have, you know, and I was absolutely the worst participant in the recovery process ever. Some of my friends said the only reason they thought I made it was because the way I was drinking and using, my body was so toxic, cancer could not live in my body. It was bad. So then I went on, and I'm back up in school, and my mother calls me and says, we haven't anywhere as a family in 10 years. We'll go anywhere you want to go. Let's just go as a family. I said, okay. We took off on my natal birthday. We took off the flight of Guadalajara, and on the way there, the plane crashed. And my mother, my father, my little sister all died. And I did not. And I woke up on a mountain in this mountain in Mexico, and skull fractured, back broken in 3 places, crushed leg, crushed arm. Paralyzed from the waist down. I could move my right arm. That was all I could move. And I couldn't get anybody to help him. Sometimes it's hard, you know. That date's coming up in about 10 days. And it gets close, you know. It's like still there. But I'm safe, you know. I'm safe. I look at Eileen and I know I'm okay because whatever else may be, there's a face that was here when I got here. You know, I walked into a room in AA, and there she was. And she looked at me and went, ooh. That's not good over there. Anyway, my mother was laying over there. My little sister Kimberly was there, and my father was over there. And I couldn't get any of them to help him. I couldn't do anything to help him. So I watched them all bleed to death. And I said to God, you know, any God that would lead a lying, thieving, cheating, dope fiend, alcoholic like me on the planet and take somebody like my little sister, this kind, gentle little creature. I have no interest in a God of this type, and I renounce God. And some guys came up, and I got my wallet out, and because I wanted them to know my name, because I knew I was dying, but I just wanted them to know my name. And they took my wallet, took the money out of it, threw it back in my chest, and moved on through the wreck and scavenged the wreck, and then went back down the hill and left me up there to die. So I had no more love for you either. Had no love of God, had no love of my fellow man. Man, I was out of the game. And they got me down to the hospital, and they found my name, and that brought the federales, and the federales interrogated me through an interpreter for 3.5 days, wanted to know what I was doing back in Mexico. Again, another story we don't need to get into here. Let's just say I was at odds with Mexico. And I called some friends up in Northern California who got a plane and flew down, and they plastered me from the neck down and paid some guys and smuggled me out of Mexico and got me to a hospital in Santa Monica, California, where I recovered from my many injuries while getting completely strung out on Demerol in the hospital. And I left there one day and went on my last run, and it lasted for 6 years. And I mean, you got to understand, I'm not a guy that had any anchors at that point. I didn't have a family to keep it together for. They were dead. I had pictures in my head that I knew I could not live with that were driving me insane. I had no sense of family, no sense of community. I didn't have a career. I didn't have, you know, a wife or kids. I just was loose. And I went for it, man. I drank and used like a lunatic for the next 6 years, and it got very, very dark. I was detoxed 3 times in a bootleg sanitarium, little bootleg detox in Hollywood, where you knew the guy who knew the guy who knew where it was this week, and you would go and you give him $150 cash and give them all your stuff, and they would strap you to a gurney, shoot you full of anticonvulsants, and let you rock. And 72 hours later, they'd send you home to the morgue, and they didn't really care which way you went. And you'd get up after 3 days, and you're still full in complete detox mode. You're still sick as a dog. And I remember the last time I did that was in 1978, and this nurse said, you know, Earl, you're an alcoholic, don't you? And I said, yes, ma'am. And there was no hesitation in my response. Yes, I'm an alcoholic. I admit it to my innermost self. It says that on page 30 in the big book. We must accept our innermost self that we're alcoholic. That's the first step in recovery. And I was there in 1978, and I said, yes, I'm an alcoholic. And she says, you know, for you to drink or use is absolute madness, Earl. You need to change your language, man. You're not partying. You're not getting high. You're not having a good time, man. You just feed the beast. You've just been feeding the beast for years. That's all you do. You understand that? And I said, yes, absolutely. And they said, so armed with this knowledge, you're going to be a good boy now, Earl. You're not going to drink or use no matter what, are you? And I said, no, I'm not an idiot. Walked out of there and drank for another 2 years. Could not stop drinking. Given a good reason, I don't stop. It's the difference between me and the problem drinker. You give a problem drinker a good reason to stop, they can stop. Problem drinker goes before the judge, got another drunk driving charge. The judge says, you know what, I'm sick of you. See you one more time, you're going to do a year in county. Problem drinker goes, I don't want to do that. Makes a decision to stop drinking and driving and can act on that decision. Actually stops drinking and driving. Me, I start wondering what it's going to be like in jail because I'm going. And I can look like the problem drinker right up to that last thing. I can look just like him when I'm getting the drunk driving charge. I can look just like him when I'm getting the information about what's going to happen if I don't stop drinking. I can even have exactly the same reaction to that information as a problem drinker. I can make the same pledge the problem drinker makes. I can't act on it. I cannot follow through. Because I go home and say, well, I said I was just going to stop drinking and driving. So I'll just go drink at home. And then I go drink at home, and I just feel like going somewhere all of a sudden. I just lose track of stuff in my head. Ugh, the inside of my head. Not a good neighborhood. So I drank for 2 more years. When I had my moment of clarity, it was the day before my 28th birthday. It was November 6, 1980. Came out of my last blackout. Hair down to here. Beard, psychotic, don't use the term loosely. Could not distinguish between fantasy or reality, couldn't do it. I'd broken 74 bones, I had over 650 stitches in me, I'd been stabbed twice, shot at, and I'm just a nice little white boy from the west side, you know? And it just was, it was so over the top in what was going on in my life. There were so many times in my life where I just would look around and go, woo, way over my head, and just keep going. And how you get out of those things is like, I think they just look at you and go, well, he seems calm. It must be cool. I wasn't calm. I was obliterated. And both my hands were broken. My family was dead. I had no friends. I had no place to live. I had annihilated my life. They were deciding whether or not to charge me with attempted murder. And I just woke up, and none of that mattered. None of that was it. What was it was I had this moment where I realized I wasn't connected to another human being on the face of the earth, and I hadn't been for a long, long time. I'd been lonely so long I didn't know I was lonely. I'd been alone so long I didn't know I was alone. I didn't understand any of it. I didn't know how. I just knew that I was an alcoholic, and this wasn't God's fault, and it wasn't the Interpol's fault, and it wasn't my father's fault, and it wasn't the FBI's fault. It was my fault. It was on me, and if anybody was going to do something about it, it was going to have to be me. We talk about God shots a lot, you know what I mean? And the God shots for me are when something comes out of my mouth or something happens or an intuition presents itself that's never been there before, that doesn't seem associated with anything else that's been going on at all. And then in that moment, suddenly, I threw my hands up and I said, help me. There had been nothing like that for me in my life. And I said, help me. And they took me by ambulance to a place. They pumped my stomach at UCLA, and they said, get him out of here, he's going to die. And then they took me to Olive View Medical Center, and they kept me for 3 to 5 more days. I don't really know which, and I was getting worse. They took me by ambulance to Long Beach General Hospital under the care of a doctor, VINCI Fox. The Georgia Peach, man, saved a lot of souls like mine. And I was in there for 17 days more of detox, and then 30 days on a cot. It was 21 cots on each side of the room, 42 guys in one room with sheets drawn between the cots. And how you kicked was you got in your cot and you kicked. No meds, no being nice, no anybody coming around going, are you a little anxious, Earl? Would you like a little something? Nothing. And and it was like Dante's Inferno in there, man. It was like somebody's going nuts every second of the day. 42 guys kicking like that, and you buck up out of your car. It was called riding the cot, man. You stay in your car going, oh God, and then and then you'd have a seizure, and you just buck right up out of the cot, and they'd come running and stabilize you and get your vitals stabilized. You all right? Well, no, I'm not. Well, just get in the car. No, I'm not all right. How can you ask somebody in here? I don't think anyone in here is all right. You look good, Earl. You look good. Oh, yeah. And I remember I was sitting in a chair, and Dr. Fox came walking in. It's the first direction I got. Dr. Fox walked in, and she was from Georgia. She had hair piled up on her head with a pencil in it all the time, and she always wore a sweater and had files with her. She always had files with her, and she would smoke, and she had a cigarette that she'd stick in the corner of her mouth and light it and just leave it there, right? So there was always ashes on the files and on her sweater, you know? It's like a freeze-frame picture in my head because she scared me so bad I almost had a heart attack and died, so I have that picture in my head. Just like, snap, there it is. And she walked in the room, and she looked right at me, and I was in the chair. I was holding on to a chair. I was riding the chair. I'm sitting in the chair, and she walked in, and I just went, oh. And she looked right at me, and she went, ooh. And she walked over, and she put her hand on my cheek, and she said, baby, you really do need to be here. And I was like a dog, you know what I mean? It was like she came over, and she just looked at me and went, stay. And I just went, yeah. Okay. And then when I left, Ray W., my counselor, said, if you don't want to die, you better go to Alcoholics Anonymous. It's the only place a guy like you's got a shot. And I said, okay. I just heard, go AA. Mm. And I went to AA, and I went to a basement of a church on a Friday night, Try God group. Jeannie and Nick. Yeah, and sat in the back of the room, arms folded, best mad dog and everybody, looking crazy, just... And because the greater aspect of my disease, the obsession of the mind, was in full effect. I had kicked, the physical phenomenon of craving had been removed, but the obsession of the mind was overwhelming. And my old thinking was there, so I sat in the back of the room, looking at all the windows and doors, scanning the room, who's got the juice in here, I'll slide up on whoever's talking about stuff, burglarize the conversation, find out what you guys got, and then I'm out. Read the steps on the wall, went, great, got it, what else you got? Traditions, good, lovely. That stayed in my head for like 4 seconds. By the time I read step 3, I'd forgotten completely what step 1 said. But I thought I had it. And then I sat in the back, and this guy got up, and he shared his experience, strength, and hope. And changed me. I'd been beaten into a state of reasonableness by my alcoholism, and I didn't even know it. This guy got up, and he shared his experience, strength, and hope. I didn't know that's what it was. I just heard a guy who got up, and he talked about waking up in the morning with his head just on him. And I went, yeah, I know about that. I would wake up in the morning and my head would just go, Earl, we're glad you're up. We've been talking for several hours amongst ourselves. We got a few things we want to go over with you. So just lay still. And first of all, you're a miserable piece of shit, and you're never going to amount to anything. There's absolutely no reason you're getting up anyway, so let us continue. And this guy would wake up in the morning, and his head would do that to him, and he would get up, and he would take a shower, and he would go to work, and he would give him an honest day's work for an honest day's pay, right? And then he would go get something to eat, and he would go to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, not to take from the meeting, not to see what they had for him, because he had worked the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous as outlined in the big book. He had had an awakening as a result of that. The obsession of the mind had been removed. He was walking the earth a free man, so he went to that meeting to be of service to that meeting, to see what he could bring to it, and then he went home and he got in bed. No wreckage. I was astonished. Because I'm such a self-centered, frightened human being. My first sponsor got a hold of me, the late, great Donald Madden, and he said, first of all, low self-esteem is a goal for you. And I just went, okay, what am I going to say? No? And it was just when he said no wreckage, I thought, that's incredible. What that guy just said is incredible. Because I wake up, if I'm up, wreckage. It's just wreckage because I'm so afraid. If you come up and say, how you doing? I hate you. Because I don't know the answer to that question. How you doing? I don't know. What's going on? Don't know. What's up? You're asking the wrong guy. I don't know what's up. I'm just, you know what I mean? And I can't say that. If I'd have been honest when I got in and you said, how are you? I would have just started screaming at you. How's that sound? That's what it sounds like in here. Did you enjoy that? Get away from me. I don't want to talk. I never took a chip. I didn't take a cake till I was 3 years sober. Didn't say a word in AA for 2.5 years. And the reason was I was too afraid. I thought if I come up here and I tell you my name, you will find out it'll just open the floodgates and you'll find out who I am. And if you find out the things that I've done, you're going to ask me to leave because that's what reasonable people would do. And you looked like reasonable people. I didn't know that you were nuts as me. You looked like reasonable people. I was so scared all the time. I mean, I've had people who were sober when I come in tell me, God, you were so angry. And I went, nah, I might have looked angry, but that was just so you would know how scared I was. Just afraid of everything. And but that guy, that same first speaker, he looked right at me and he said, and I don't care whether you like what I got to say or not. You don't like what I got to say? Go to another meeting. Maybe you'll hear somebody that you can identify with. And I thought, that's the best thing I've ever heard. It's the best thing I've ever heard because it was clear to me he wasn't selling me anything. He was sharing it with me. If I wanted it, I could have it. It was for free. And this little pilot light went on inside me, and I went, oh, this is for me. This is for me. This is for me. And I've never left. I'm so grateful that I had nowhere else to go. I'm so grateful that it was destroyed. I would look at the horizon of my life, and I would look, and there was no place where I could go, well, it's going pretty good over here. Let's focus on that. There was nowhere for the denial to take me. You know what I mean? Everywhere I went, it was like, well, that's not good. That's bad. That's annihilated. You know? And it was all a result of the same thing. There was nowhere to go. I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous because there's no place else left for me to go. I don't have any choice. If I don't find a way to make this work, I'm going to die the death of an alcoholic, and I don't want to die like that. I don't want people to think casually of me sometime in the future and just shake their head and go, what a waste. What a waste of a life. Because I had done absolutely nothing of any value at all up to that point. So I thought, I'm going to come back. So I started going to meetings, and they said, get a sponsor. And I said, what's a sponsor? And they, like Toyota? I don't know what a sponsor is. And they said, a sponsor is somebody who's got what you want. And I said, I want a drink. I want a drink. They said, well, no. I have come to believe you get a sponsor who's got what he wants. That's a very good definition of happiness for me, wanting what you have. And I'm looking around, and this lunatic comes up at a podium one day. Like he just flew in the room. This great big homosexual guy just flew in, and there's an unabashed gay designer. Oh, hello to you. It was how we talked, and it was the late great Donald Madden. And he flew to the podium one day, and I just went, boy, is that guy gay. I got nothing in common with that guy. And then he started, because I noticed the differences. I'm very good at spotting the differences. I'm not looking for similarities yet. I don't know how to do that. So if I got here, it's not a better or worse thing. It's just you're different. You come up in something else. If you're gay, you don't know about me. If you're black, Hispanic, Asian, a woman, 5 years older, 5 years younger, you're just different to me. You come up through something else. You don't know about me. By the time I got here, the wagon circle so tight, it's just if you're not Earl, you don't know about me. And then Donald comes flying in, you know what I mean? And it's like, well, that's easy. Now we're not the same. And then he shared his experience, strength, and hope. And at the end of it, I loved him. I just went, I want what that man has. He had such a passion for life. And he was so unabashedly high on AA and the program and one alcoholic serving another. And being there for another. And it was just his whole life. And I just thought, that's it. I want to feel strongly about something. I don't feel strongly about anything. I'm so dead inside. All I think about is me, and man, am I tired of that. Being self-obsessed isn't just a guy walking around thinking he's great. Self-obsessed is also a guy walking around going, I'm a loser. I'm a loser. I hate myself. I hate myself. That guy's as self-obsessed as the other guy. It was awful. And I went up to him and I said, will you sponsor me? And he said, what? And I said, will you sponsor me? He said, yes. And you don't have to like what I tell you, and you don't have to think it's a good idea. You just have to do it, baby. And I so wanted to get off the first part that I just said, did you have to say baby? Did you have to say baby? I was like, okay, I'll do what you say. And he goes, great. And he would call me. I mean, I remember the first time he called me, I lived in a one-room apartment, and it was in those days where they had answering machines separate from the phone, and you could turn the phone off and leave the answering machine on, right? Because I was afraid of the phone. I was afraid of the mail. I was afraid of the phone. It's all bad news. Nobody's writing me a letter going, boy, do we miss you. When are you coming over? So, not getting letters or phone calls like that. Earl, we're having a party. Love it if you'd come. Nah. But on my apartment, all you would hear was you'd hear beep and somebody talking, leaving a message, so I could, spy on whoever was calling. And I'm laying in the bed, and it's like 6:30 in the morning, and I've had an hour of sleep at this point because I'm not sleeping much in the beginning. And all of a sudden it goes beep, and it's Donald. And I go beep, wake up! And you just went from laying there to just, and he goes, we're having a day. Click. She knows I'm telling the truth. That was him, right? And I just went, oh my God, they have bed checks in AA. These people are everywhere, man. There's no escaping. They're just everywhere. And he would call me. He never called me up and said, Earl, do you feel like going to a meeting? Would you like to go to a meeting with us? Please. He just called me up and go, Earl, we're meeting at Ohio Street. The meeting starts at 8:30. Be there at 8. I want you to pick up Ed on the corner of 6th and Santa Monica at 7:30 and bring him to the meeting. Click. It's just like, God, that's rude. Just that the assumption that I have nothing else to do. Yeah. When I got here, I did not need a day planner. You know what I mean? When I got here, if they said, listen, meetings are 12 hours long. They go from noon to midnight every day, and you have to go to one every day. I would have had no scheduling conflicts. It's like, okay, I'll go. But, I mean, it would have to go get Ed. Who's Ed? I mean, this was the inside of my head was Ed. Who the corner of 6th and Santa Monica, and I'm driving over there just pissed off. Oh, fine. I'll go to the corner of 6th and Santa Monica to get it. If I'm not mistaken, there's 4 corners on 6th and Santa Monica. There's 4 of them. How am I going to find Ed? There's going to be a lot of people around, and I'm like a half a block from there, and I'm going, I'll never find this guy. There he is right there. There's Ed. Because you can always spot the alcoholic waiting, the new guy waiting on the corner to be picked up by somebody he doesn't know. Ed's the guy standing on the corner doing this. He's just... And I go, so I pull over and I go, Ed, get in the car. It's like, oh, Ed comes in and gets in the car and he goes, hi, I'm Ed, and I've got 6 days, and my wife took me back, and I got my job back, and I'm going to have a car tomorrow. And it's like, shut up, Ed. I got 18 months, and you're already doing better than me. Just shut up. I'm supposed to take you to the meeting, and if you want to go somewhere after the meeting, I'll take you there too, but just quiet down right now. And Ed just, okay. It's just crazy in my head. And then this buddy of mine went together and said, and this buddy of mine calls me up one day and he goes, Earl, they got a book. And I went, what are you talking about? I'd been sober a few years. I said, they got a book, steps, everything. We got to check it out. And I said, all right, Christopher. So Christopher and I sit down with a big book and we got tapes, Joe and Charlie. God, see, now I said Joe and Charlie. Jesus. The original Joe passed away yesterday. Joe, the Q. Yeah, 3:30 Saturday, 3:30 Friday morning. Okay. Yeah. What a great legacy, man. What an unbelievable legacy. The original Joe and Charlie, the big book comes alive. And boy, does it when you're talking to those guys. If you can ever get a hold of that set of tapes, the original Joe and Charlie, the big book comes alive, buckle your seatbelt, get out your big book and a pencil, just hit play. You'll never be safer. Anyway, God bless Joe. What the hell was I talking about? Christopher, we got the book, right? So we got the book, and now we're listening to Joe and Charlie, and we're following around the guys who talk about the books. The guys we've been avoiding at all costs, right? We go follow the guys around with the book, and we're reading the book, and it was I wish I'd had a camera on us reading through the book together. Because it was like, we're reading the book. I mean, we'd be like reading along, and all of a sudden I'd go, hey, you know that thing they say in those A&A meetings? Here it is, right here. They kind of explain it, too. This is pretty good. I mean, it was like every 5 minutes. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, so that goes with that. And it was just, our heads are exploding with this. And what we found was there's this triangle with a circle around it, right? This ancient spiritual symbol that stands for mind, body, and spirit brought together as a whole human being. And therein lies the balance I've sought my whole life, and I've never had drunk or sober. Alcoholics Anonymous adopted that symbol, and it's the same thing. It's unity, service, and recovery. Unity's the body, I bring it here. I couldn't stay sober, but we seem to be able to. It's the first word in the steps. We admitted, right? So I got to stay with you. So, I figure I got to do 4 things. I got to go to regular meetings regularly. Regular meetings regularly. So I get known, so I develop a home group. I got to get a sponsor in that home group. The sponsor's job is to take me through the 12 steps, as outlined in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Having had a spiritual awakening is the result of working the steps. I can be a service to other people. Get out of myself and be a service. Go to meetings, get a sponsor, work the steps, be a service to somebody else. So unity's the body. I bring it here. I couldn't stay sober, but we do together. That's been my experience, so I've always stuck close to meetings. The recoveries of the mind, the greater aspect of my illness. See, because this is not about stopping drinking for me. That's not what it couldn't be about that. It had to be about how can I stay stopped. And the only way a guy like me is going to stay stopped is if I can get comfortable sober. And the only way I know to get comfortable sober is to be relieved of the obsession of the mind. I can't have that beast whispering in my ear all the time, making me crazy while I'm standing in a meeting, sweeping up at Ohio Street with my sponsor standing right over there, and the beast is whispering in my ear, Earl, have you seen the apple martini? I don't believe we had one of those, and it looks very refreshing. And I'm not mistaken, apple is a fruit. And this is like, what is going on in there? I'm not getting into all that. Unity's the recoveries of the mind. I have to work the 12 steps, so that stops. Because it does. It does. Step 1 is, what's the problem? Lack of power is my dilemma. I may be very functional in other areas. Well, I'm not, but it could be. Maybe. But when it comes to the question of drinking and using, I'm out of my mind. So if lack of power is my dilemma in step 1, what's my solution? Step 2, that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity, soundness of mind, relieve me of the obsession to drink, so that I could walk the earth a free man for the first time since I'm 12 years old. Step 3 says, well, you better make a decision to do something about that, or this is just a useless conversation. So I get down on my knees and I turn my will and my life over to the care of a God I don't understand at all. I don't understand God. I see evidence of God on a daily basis, but I don't understand. Thank God understanding is not necessary here. You don't have to just stick on whatever you're on until you go, oh, I get that completely. Don't do that. Just keep moving. Huh? So step 1, problem. Step 2, solution. Step 3, make a decision. 4 and 5 is me. 6 and 7 is God. 8 and 9 is you. There's nobody else to play with. That's the whole troops. That's everybody. 4 and 5, I swallow large chunks of truth about myself, doing 4-column inventories on resentment, fear, and sex. Then before God, I read this to another individual. Get it out. How free do you want to be? Get it out. Right? That person looks at me and goes, good luck. Leaves the house. 6 and 7, I hook it back up with God. Notice the order of these things. Earl, get Earl's inventory done. Get Earl to check where he's at. Have Earl read this before God, get it out. Then, Earl's going to hook it back up with God, asking God to remove the defects of character, because I will remove the wrong stuff. I will. I do. And 8 and 9, I'm going to hook it back up with you. But I got to get right with me and right with God before I start running around bothering you. And there's a lot of conversation in the book about it sort of basically says, okay, we're going to let you out of the house now, Earl, so we want you to be very clear on what we're trying to do. So there's a lot of conversation in the book about 8 and 9. I go out, I'm very, very sorry, here's your money back in the house. Pretty simple. And to make amends means to change. So I'm very sorry I stole your car. I estimate the value of the car at $25,000 at the time of the theft. If that's acceptable to you, I will pay you in monthly increments in this amount at whatever interest rate you deem is appropriate, and I will not go steal your car and sell it to pay you for the car I stole from you. I'm out. I don't do those things anymore. So then 10, 11, and 12 keeps me in the game. 10 me, 11 God, 12 you, same stuff. 10 me, I continue to take personal inventory, and when I'm wrong, promptly admit it, because if I don't promptly admit it, I'll fester and die. Resentment's the number one killer of us, and I'll turn something I've done to you into a resentment I have towards you effortlessly. It's unbelievable. Right? And I continue because I've scratched the surface, and I want to dig deep here. The great thing about Alcoholics Anonymous is, how deep do you want to go? You want to go deep? We got it for you. It's a bottomless, unbelievable journey that goes as far as you can possibly take it. 11, I seek God through prayer and meditation. What do I pray for? What it says to pray for. Knowledge of His will for me and the power to carry that out. And I meditate to quiet the mind so that when the answers come, I can hear them. 12 is the third side of the triangle. Unity is the body, I bring it here. Recovery is the mind, I work the steps. Having been restored to sanity, soundness of mind, relieved of the obsession, drink and use, walk in the earth for a free man the first time, practice these principles and carry the message to the alcoholic who still suffers. I now go to meetings not to take, but to give. How can I help? Not because I'm a good guy, but because that's how I stay free of the beast and can have a life that has any value at all. If I'm not sober, everything else is just a conversation. It's number one in my life. A guy explained it to me real simply when he just said, Earl, if you drink again, how many areas of your life will be negatively impacted by that? And I said, woo, all. And he said, what areas of your life seem to have been positively impacted by your staying sober? The answer is all of them. I have areas where I didn't even used to have areas now. I got great areas, you know. I got problems, but I got the best problems I've ever had in my life. It's a good way to see if you're in the game, you got problems. But they're the best ones I've ever had because of you. I mean, if I don't do anything, what's today's date? The 28th? The 27th? 27th, so we got 10 days, I'll be 27. And trust me, when that happens, God's willing for that to happen. You know, so 26, 11 months, blah, blah, blah. And that's a direct result of being involved with Alcoholics Anonymous. There's no as Earl sees it in there. All the Earl sees it information is prior to that. Just wreckage and annihilation. And fast forward to now. Here's what's happening now. I've been with the same woman for 9 years. I'm married to somebody I actually know. I've been married several times. This is the only time that's true. I like my wife. Of course I'm in love with her, but I like my wife. She's an amazing human being. She's dragged me kicking and screaming into a very nice life. She'll say, I think we should live together. I think, well, that's a bad idea. And we live together, and it's really nice. And she said we should get a dog, and I said, well, you've gone too far. Because there's like walking and pooping and all kinds of stuff involved there, and I just don't want the responsibility. Got a dog? Unbelievable. We got 2 now. She said we should buy a house. I said, you've slipped loose from reality somehow. That's it. We got a house, best financial decision we ever made. It's just, and then I started to get it. Asked her to marry me, you know what I mean? I caught on after 5 years. And I'm not a guy that's capable of doing that. Because remember, I'll never love another human being again as long as I live. And there's no way I'm ever going to tell you who I am, so there's no way you're going to love me. Just not going to do it. Just not going to do it. I can't do it. And the day it changed was because I was not paying attention to it. I was simply chopping the wood and carrying the water of Alcoholics Anonymous. I was doing the deal, man. I was going to regular meetings regularly, working with my sponsor, going through the steps, and then turning around and trying to give it away. I sponsor 25 guys. One of them came with me to this trip, which has been a blast. But how do I say this? I don't know how to say that. It's like beyond words for me. It's beyond words what's happened. It's beyond words what's happened to my life. I marvel in the ordinary now. Right? I mean, I was so dead inside. I was so dead inside that if I heard a bullet go by, that was an exciting evening. You know what I mean? Because it took that for me to feel anything. I could feel that. I was like, oh, I felt that. That's good. Now I get to marvel in the ordinary. I get to sit and have a conversation, watch my wife wake up and go, oh, I feel amazing. That makes me feel amazing. I can talk to a friend. I can have some crazy newcomer come up to me and say, you need to sponsor me. I sponsor Satan. Louis, this guy with a shaved head, got 2 red horns of hair shellacked up on his head. Got a beard down like this. He's got a devil's tail tattooed up his back. And he's got flames tattooed up his legs like he's standing in the fires of hell. And I spoke at a meeting one day, and this guy comes running up to me and says, dude, you have to sponsor me. And I just looked at him and said, I don't know what I'm doing to attract Satan, but okay. God, man. And he's got 14 years now, and he's an absolutely remarkable member of Alcoholics Anonymous. He's of service where no one else can be. The Midnight Madness meetings in Hollywood, man, those little speed freaks come tweaking in off the boulevard with their heads on fire, you know, and they look around the meeting and they go, the devil got sober. This is outstanding. Louis walks right up and says, hi, I'm actually Louis, not a hallucination. And here's a big book, and let's get to work. And he's an amazing guy. I get to watch stuff like that. I get to marvel in human interaction. You know, it's just, we have a house. We have a house with a lawn in the front of it. We bought this house, and we move over there. And I've learned to walk among them pretty well. You know, where they don't, people just don't get frightened right away. And we got this house, and it's got a front yard. And I look up and down the street. It's a nice neighborhood, and there's nice yards. And I think, well, God, I got to keep this alive. I got to keep this going because that's how they spot us, you know. Good yard, good yard, good yard, dead yard. There they are. So I got to keep it alive. So I get the hose, and I got the thing on, and I'm, throwing a little water around. And it's in the afternoon, and the light's coming through the sycamore trees, and it's hitting the water on the plants, and it's doing that little prismatic thing it does, where the light kind of dances off the water. And I think, oh, well, that's kind of nice. A lot of acid. Did a lot of acid. Looking at that, thinking, this is fantastic. I like this. And then it occurs to me that the plants are, in fact, alive, and that they breathe in the carbon dioxide and out the oxygen. And I'm standing right here breathing in the oxygen and out the carbon dioxide. We got a little thing going on here. This is good. So here's a little more for you, my brother. Here's a little more for you, my sister. I'm catching a little buzz. I'm hooking up with the plant life now. This feels fantastic. Guy drives by, right? Sees man on lawn watering plants. Not what's happening. There's an alcoholic on his lawn, feeding a few of his friends, catching a buzz, man, just catching a buzz, lighting up with life. See, the power of choice has been returned. I get to choose now. I'm not a slave to alcohol and drugs anymore. I'm not. I'm a free man, and I get to choose. Now, I'm going to be watering the lawn. Now, I can either have a lousy experience or a good one. I choose the good one. I choose to go out there and catch a buzz with a few of my friends. I don't have to stand in line. I don't have to stand in line anymore. I get to. I'm pretty comfortable standing in line. I go with the flow better than I ever have before in my life. And it's because I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. If you're new, this goes so far past not drinking and using, it's unbelievable. Buckle your seatbelt. When they say in the very beginning it is a design for living, that's what they mean. They mean those words. They're real words. You should get a sponsor, get a pencil, go through that book and read the black part. Just the black part. And ask yourself, is this true for me? Do I identify with this? What does that mean? I don't understand. Wrestle with the concepts afoot in that book, and it will blow the top of your head off. Look, if there wasn't a big buzz here, I wouldn't be here. I'm still about the buzz. I got to get the buzz, and it's here for us. And can you imagine? Remember the links we used to go to catch a buzz, man? In here, it'll take you to a whole new place of that where you marvel in the ordinary, where in the normal course of a day, you will find countless opportunities to have a cosmic experience in your own life, to have a spiritual connection, to feel like God is in your breath, to feel like there's the distance between me and this human being doesn't separate me from this person, it connects me. I'm connected again. I'm loving and being loved. I remember the day, was what I was trying to say earlier, was I remember the day when I woke up and I felt, it was a horrible morning, and I called up Donald Madden and I said, Donald, something has gone terribly wrong. And he said, what is it? And I said, I love you. Oh, no. And he just said, oh, I know, baby. Click. And I know he did. And I hung up and I went, I know he does. I just laughed and went, I know he does. I know he knows I love him. I know he knows that feels very dangerous for me. Because if he goes now, I'll be devastated. And when he did go, When he did go, I was lost. I didn't know what to do because he was the face of AA for me. He was the one human being on the face of the earth I believed, and he was gone. And I went in and I started to water his garden because he had this amazing garden. So I just was crying and watering his garden. We were waiting for him to come get the body. And the guys that he sponsored would come up to me and say, "What do we do?" And I don't remember any of this. I was just blacked out with it. But a lot of them say, I would walk up and I'd say, "You have to get a sponsor. You should probably call this guy." And I would say, "You got to get a sponsor." Like, we're not missing a beat. We're going to do it because I hear his voice in my head saying, "You better get a sponsor, Earl, you little son of a bitch. You should never, ever, ever be walking the earth unattended." He used to say that to me all the time. I would call him up to check in, and I would just say, "Donald, it's Earl," and he just, out of nowhere, he would say stuff like, "You're noodle, you're 30, click." Like, okay. Like I wasn't going anywhere. All right, I'll be noodle, I'm 30. I'm only 26 now, so I got a ways to go before I'm no longer new, according to Donald. But when he died, I got lost, and then a couple of months later, I was in bad shape, and I went to a meeting to give a guy a cake for 11 years that I sponsored at the time. And he got up and he said, "I want to thank Earl H for sponsoring me and showing me the way." And then he said, "And I want to thank the late, great Donald Madden for showing him the way." And I just started crying again in public, my favorite thing. And I realized he's not dead. He's not dead because of this legacy of recovery, this amazing legacy of humanity that is Alcoholics Anonymous. When I was 5 years sober, I went to my first AA conference, and I walked in the back of a room. There was 2,500 alcoholics in the room listening to one guy, and I thought, who is that guy? And his name was Franklin W. from Olive Branch, Mississippi. And Franklin W. said, "I'll sum up Alcoholics Anonymous for you in 6 words. Trust God, clean house, and help others." And I had a spiritual experience at 5 years sober. Everything I'd heard in AA just went bam. It all made sense. It all made sense. Trust God, clean house, help others. Me, God, and you. What the steps are about. 12-step program. That was the heart and soul of this thing. 16 years later, I was 21 years sober, and I was a speaker at the Texas State Conference of AA. And there was a guy there named Searcy. Searcy's gone now. You Texas folk, you know the name, right? And Searcy saw me. He was 91 years old at the time. He was like 58 years sober. He'd been married to the same woman for 59 years. And sharp as a tack, right? Big, tall guy. And he goes, "Earl, come over here, son. I'm talking." I went, "Ooh, all right." You know, Searcy, jeez. And that guy's legacy is just unbelievable. It's global. And he said, I was sitting talking to Bill and Franklin. And I said, "Hold it. You mean like Bill Wilson, co-founder of AA, and Franklin W., Olive Branch, Mississippi?" And he said, "Yes, Earl. Now, stop it. I'm trying to tell a story." I said, "Huh?" And he said, Franklin W. said to Bill Wilson, "What is the heart and soul of this program that we must protect for the generations that have yet to come?" And without hesitation, Bill Wilson said to Franklin W., "That's simple, Franklin. Trust God, clean house, and help others." And it hit me again. And I knew that's where I need to be. So, I mean, it's a pretty short legacy, you know. Bill Wilson told Franklin W. and countless other people, "Trust God, clean house, help others." Franklin told me and countless other people, "Trust God, clean house, help others." I'm telling you and countless other people, "Trust God, clean house, help others." My prayer for you is that you engage in the unity. You go to regular meetings regularly. That you engage in the recovery of the mind. You work the 12 steps so that you can be relieved of the obsession to drink and use. You can walk the earth free men and women. As a result of the awakening that occurs, that you will then be of service to other people and show them how to trust God, clean house, and help others. It is a remarkable, remarkable journey, and I truly feel that this is the only way I can honor Donald Madden. It's the only way I can do it. And that's enough for me. That's enough for me. Thanks.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.